He sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzel FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your front gear. He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No. Canvas is going to win.
Get out your bats and brass knuckles. It's time for a street fight. With how tough this place is, the drivers might look like they've been through a fight afterwards as well. Let's see who can handle the brutal Detroit circuit as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on FTF.gg. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury and Bill Soup Zahn. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Now, Joey, this is a track that has really gained a reputation, not just in real life, but here in the sim, for punishing drivers.
Well, between the concrete walls and the uneven surfaces, it is a challenge every single lap that these drivers have to go around this place. And really, it all starts with the turn 1-2 chicane. We've seen famously even pace cars lose control over the hump there at turn 2. And trust me, it does nothing but get narrower and narrower as the race goes on because the rubber offline starts to get slippery and you overstep those limits, you start sliding and people will go right underneath you. And those concrete walls, if you slide too far, they will bite you really bad.
Indeed. So it's going to be more about probably keeping it on the black stuff, keeping it on the island here today. But as for the island of the championship, Bill, I believe you've got a bit of an update on how that's going.
I can run through this real fast. Nathan Olson from Aradness Green has 4 wins and yet to miss the podium. Of course, we're talking about the prototypes. Satellite Racing's Apollo's Billy Smith's best finish was second at Montreal. Carter Kundinger had a dominating win at Monza for Composite Performance Iceman. PG-13 American Wheelman's Paul Gibson's best result was second at Indy, and Nate Gruselski is coming off a 4th last time out. Quick update on that. Nathan Olson not here tonight, so we'll have a good opportunity for other guys to pick up some wins. Let's go to the GT Pros. Boy, Ross Booth for CP Iceman has a quartet of wins. Axiom Motorsports hurls down the next 2 spots with Bedusi's John Shirazi in second and Squoozy's Nate June in third. I hope I got those names right for those teams. Wayne Castile has a win for Maradness Green. And Sector 5, the Haley Agency, has seen the Comet only podium once. And then we go to the GTMs where Luke Schmidt for Composite Performance Maverick, Nicholas Davis for Sector 5, that's the Haley Agency, the Mousetrap Robert Rattray for Gone Broke Racing, and Privateer Corey Ensing all have wins. Third last time out was Satellite Racing's Apollo Shane Hunter. Best result so far was that third. Joe?
So it's still very tight there in the AMs, but qualifying is going to be extremely important today, and it looks like it has wrapped up. Bill, I believe you've got the prototype order.
Without Olsen here, an opportunity for some guys to really pick up wins. Paul Darling sitting on the pole. Billy Smith right behind him. 2 veterans of this series, Paul Gibson and Thomas Fisher. Fisher making his 3rd start to go 3rd and 4th. Carter Kundinger and Joshua Howland Wolf will go in row 3. Dominic Dornenberg and Leif Peterson after them. Nate Gruselski is going to be inside of Eddie Layden with Robert Hension and Chris Sherburne, 11th and 12th of our 12 cars in the prototypes. Joey?
There on pole for the GT Pros is Ryan Washaleski. Next to him is going to be Bradley Haley there in the 2nd spot. Eric Thomas in the number 18 comes home 3rd in qualifying there. Luke Schmidt 4th. Robert Cast is going to be inside the top 5 there. Corey Ensing, the first of the AMs. He is the GT AM pole sitter in 6th overall in the GTs. Nathan Jew there in 7th. Franco Margarella in 8th. Shane Hunter and Young Park rounds out the top 10.
Then it's Christopher Pies starting in 11th in the GTs. Wayne Castile only 12th today. He's going to have some work to do. Ryan Robertson will start from 13th and Robert Rattray in 14th. Then it's Tom Hammond P15, followed by Andrew Lunsford. Ed Isering starts after that. Johan Shirazi way far down in 18th, unfortunately. Cameron Bidwell starts 19th and Jimbo Pfeiffer will start in 20th amongst the GTs.
Nick Olas there in 21st. Trent Brown, 22nd. Sheldon Rosenbaum, Matt Gosh, Dale Green there in the 25th spot. Mark Kidrowski, Scott Angelo, and Patrick McDaniel round out the 28 total GT cars today, Joe.
So we're used to these AMs and Pro GTs being a little bit mixed up, but the fact that Luke Schmidt starts as high as 4th, and then, as we mentioned, a number of the Pro drivers that are usually a little farther up the order, starting all mixed up towards the back, is going to make this a very fascinating one as we get ready to go. And just to top off the difficulty, Bill, it's pretty cool temperature, so they'll need a bit to get those tires up.
Yeah, I was expecting the first laps to be kind of hectic because passing is so hard here that you want to make hay while the sun is shining, and that's going to be during qualifying and on that first lap when the passing opportunities are primed to get. Here's the good news, though. Relatively small field by Autobahn standards with only 40 cars. That's about 2/3 what we usually get of a full 60-car field.
Hopefully that will help, but with it still being the LMP2 prototypes along with the GT cars, and I guess the good news is, Joey, the GT cars, the AM and the Pro, are the same class car. It's just separated by driver's license, so that'll at least limit the chaos compared to what it used to be where we had 3 different classes.
You're right. It's the same class, just separated by a number on a piece of paper, so they're all the same speed when it comes to the GTs. However, those LMP cars, when they have to work their way through that GT traffic, it's not just going to happen once, but it's going to happen over the course of 60 minutes. It's going to take both parties an organization, cooperation from everybody out on track.
Yeah, and in that 60 minutes, expect 1 pit stop as the drivers do not have enough fuel to make it to the end. And they'll be looking out for that, especially when we get into that pit window coming out of pit lane. It gets even more narrow out of turn 2 and onto Central Avenue, where it's already tough trying to go over that hump over the creek. So drivers are certainly going to have a lot of things to watch out for. Mostly, we expect this to be a game of survival today, as it looks like they're getting ready to take off on their short pace lap pretty quickly. It's been a wild one in that AM category with only 3 points for those top 3. And on top of it, only 2 drivers so far in this season have managed to take more than 1 win. It's been so evenly spread. Very opposite of what we've seen with the GT Pros, with Booth taking so many of the wins. And interesting note for Shirazi as well. With him starting so far back this time, unfortunately, that's a continuation of a trend. He had his first finish off the podium since Sebring last time out when we were at Watkins Glen. So hopefully this isn't something that we're going to see regularly. Maybe he can fight his way forward as the LMP2s now slowly work their way towards the start lane, the starting zone, which is just past the pit entry. And there we go. Green flag is out. It's a good jump for our leader, Paul Darling, down into turn 1. Will they be able to get out of turn 2 cleanly, though? Hopefully we don't see any spinning cars, because that's going to be difficult for the GTs. And it does look like we are clean. Let's go to Joey.
Pace car is still, quote-unquote, on the track. The GT leader, Ryan Wasilewski, still off of the gas. Now he's on the throttle with a really good jump. Pretty clean getaway from the top 3 cars. They say single file through there, and a little bit backed up further in the back of the pack. A little bit busier, too wide as they come out onto the straight over the crest for the first time.
Looking good to me so far. Not seeing anybody really bouncing around out there as we watch both the fields down into turn 3 for the first time up at the front of the GT classes. And again, nobody really having any major issues. Everybody's really showing patience. This is a good sign, Bill.
We got our brand new piggyback camera angle there, and Nobody got in an accident. Very clean up front. Darling having it all the way. Billy Smith right behind him.
Darling leading by about 0.6 of a second. Billy Smith still chasing. Paul Gibson in that third spot. No change for that podium as the first lap completes itself. Carter Kundinger, watch out for him back there in fourth. Just kind of hovering around, still certainly in contention in these early days. So now they are up to speed, but it's going to be just these few laps that they'll have without the traffic.
Kundinger, the only driver in the prototypes to actually make up a position, and he did that right off the start. Haven't seen a pass going into a corner or coming out of a corner yet.
That's a good point. Yeah, only other one I can see is Gruchelski has managed to gain one up into 8th, but you're right. It's been extremely single file here in the prototypes. Wonder if everybody's just so wary. Nobody wants to try and make a foolish move here in the beginning, but they made it through the first lap cleanly. So did the GT cars. I can see back there that it looks like, Joey, we haven't had any major accidents that I can spot.
And no, actually, no major accidents right now. Robert Cast is lining up his teammate Luke Schmidt. Luke got into the wall on lap 1. Doesn't look to be any damage on his Porsche, but Robert Cast getting around him right now for position on track.
And that's bad news for Luke because Corey Ensing is within his class. So this is the battle for the AM lead here. And Ensing, one of those that has managed to take 2 wins so far in this season. So just snagged it last time out at Watkins Glen. Onto the back stretch now along the Strand. They start to pick up speed, but nobody looks quite close enough to me this time.
Yeah, but I tell you what, Luke Schmidt just needs to settle in, get his car up to temperature. There's a lot of things going on the first lap, and looks like he avoids that wall this time around. Much better through this sector. He just needs to get up to speed, get into the rhythm.
We mentioned Shirazi back there. He has got himself 3 positions at the start, so he's definitely on the move trying to make up for that poor qualifying out there, but still has quite a ways to go to get up to the leaders and try and contend up there. Look at him slide out of some of these corners right up to the edge of the wall.
And in these GT cars, you tend to have them a little bit more compliant here at the Detroit circuit because you look at all the bumps, Joe, you got to be able to absorb those bumps. And typically it's a slower speed racetrack, which means you got to be able to squat and get that power down.
Somebody kicked up some dust there. Not sure if they actually brushed the wall, but it looked awful close as they once again break down into turn 3. Nathan Jew in the background starting to look a little bit under threat as he's got Franco Margarella close in behind him. There he is right there in the Porsche with the teal, black, and white, surrounded essentially by a sea of neon green and black.
It goes all the way back to Young Park back there in the 9th place. You're right. It starts up there with Luke Schmidt, Corey Ensing, Nathan Jew, Franco Margarella, and Young Park. They're all in this pack. You see them on the single frame here.
Not seeing much action right now. I think this is, again, a lot of display of patience from the drivers, which is excellent to see that they're all trying to just work things out for now until they get a little bit more frantic and they'll have opportunities when the traffic gets through. But Bill, from what I can tell, I think the LMP2s are going to catch the GTs probably within another 2 laps.
Yeah, that's the impression I got when I was listening to Joey call the start. I go, man, it's a long break between we call in the prototype start and when the GT pros actually took the grid. And I think that's really why it's so calm right now in the prototypes, because they're separated by 4 or 5 car lanes each position. But that's all going to change when they get to traffic, and that's going to be real early.
And in fact, my estimation was a little bit off. Oh, Scott Angelo had a big hit in the wall right in front of the leader, and the leader just got him. Paul Darling smashes into him, and that causes a spin for Paul Gibson, who somehow keeps it out of the wall. A full 360 through the last couple turns. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. And there you can see, unfortunately, heading into pit lane, the car of Paul Darling just destroyed on the front end, Bill.
Joey and I were just talking about it, how Darling has always been so dominant, and then he just hasn't been as strong as he has in the past. And Joey is saying he doesn't race as much as he used to. And this is an opportunity without Olsen to be here to maybe get a win, and it doesn't go well.
Lady Luck just not on his side here in Detroit Rock City, unfortunately, and Gibson followed him in as well. We'll see if either of them get back out on the track. They have no free repairs to help save them. So it's basically going to be down to hoping that the car can be fixed up enough to return and try and pick up some of the attrition that other drivers might have. So now Billy Smith is leading the way. Carter Kundinger gets promoted into second, and Thomas Fisher is a long ways back in third.
Fisher hasn't been racing much this season. Came in about 3-4 races ago. Has raced a couple times. Had a great qualifying run.
As we ride on board with second place Carter Kundinger here, this will give us a great perspective of just how quick it is between these narrow walls, almost a canyon course all the way around with very little runoff everywhere you go as he comes out of turn 2. And the sun is rising here as it's pretty early in the morning, just past 8 a.m. virtual standard time. So it's kind of glaring on these drivers as they come down some of the straights.
A lot of early rising race fans in Detroit. They like to have these, or maybe they're staying out late. They like to get them before they go to bed.
Depends on your perspective, I suppose, as they weave their way through the back of the GT class. Looks like they're just kind of picking their way past one by one. That was close, though, with the leader, but he managed to get away with it. We've got a replay of that incident. Let's see what happened. First with Paul Darling and then Gibson. So here's the car that went into the wall. And Darling comes across it first. He has no place to go. Oh, there was some contact just as the car escaped for Gibson. So he didn't get away completely clean.
That escape almost got there in time. It almost disappeared, but Gibson got there before it totally vanished.
Gibson looks like he has retired from the race, as I don't see him in the car right now, so I fear that he is out. Scott Angelo was the GT car. He appears to be gone as well. As we come back to Carter Kundinger, going to blast past Dale Green before they get to the start-finish line. He's still trying to run away from Thomas Fisher, who we mentioned has inherited that third place. And as they come onto Central Avenue, that's a big checkup in the background there for Fisher as we watch the leader. And I think Josh Wolf might have a good chance here at making an overtake.
I can report that Paul Darling did try to get the car repaired, came back out. It wasn't in the cards. He's retired as well, along with Gibson.
That's a real shame. He gave it his best shot. He was trying not to give up, but it just wasn't meant to be. It looks like Fisher holds on to P3, was able to retain that podium position over Josh Wolf, but yet again, the GT car is offering few chances through the twistier bits to try and overtake. Both of them stay patient in a line as now they start to open it up down the strand, look for the braking, and ahead of them, no, behind them, Robert Cancian just had a problem out of turn 6. So was coming onto the strand. I think he got a little bit of help from behind. Not entirely sure who got him, but it did spin him around. Looks like we got a replay here. Oh, and different incident. What happened? Who is this?
That's just called too much entry speed, Joe.
Oh, that's Cancian. That was actually live. Excuse me, I thought we were on a replay. So that was Cancian with another incident immediately, and he just took a tow into pit lane. So he's been having a bit of a bad day all around. And unfortunately, it seems they are already starting to drop like flies out here. Is coming into the braking now for the turn 3. We catch up with the likes of, let's see, who are we looking at here? This is... or is this the replay we actually have this time? No, I think this might be the replay. No, this is live, excuse me. That is Ryan Robertson. He currently sits in the... Oh, no, excuse me, that's Billy Smith, rather. That is our leader, currently running away from Carter Kundinger, but not terribly fast, although now he's going to gain potentially some time. Both of them a little bit stopped up behind GT cars through the fountain section. You can see the flash of the lights there from Billy Smith as he has trouble trying to overtake the car ahead of him, but Kundinger does manage to overtake on Ryan Robertson. So now splashing past Christopher Pies. Smith tries to run away from his rival, but it is a game of leapfrog in and amongst our GT cars.
If you're driving in the slower class and you really want to know what racing line to take, it's always nice to have Billy Smith behind you because he's happy to coach you.
He's certainly trying his best to see if he can lead the way for Billy Smith, or Carter Kundiger's trying to lead the way for Billy Smith rather here as they come down Central Avenue into the braking of turn 3 once again. He continues to keep at least one car between himself and Kundiger for now. Oh, but did Josh Wolf lose a spot to Nate Gruchelski? They think they're battling side by side behind them. Does look like Gruchelski's going to come out ahead.
Yeah, Gruchelski up 4 positions. Now, some of that's from attrition. Joshua Wolf up 2, and basically that's nothing because the 2 cars that gridded ahead of him have both retired. But Gruchelski's on the move.
That was Eddie Layton off the course. He got punted by Matthew Ghosh, and that sent both of them into the runoff area in turn 3. Looks like they're able to get the cars moving once again. No, I take that back. The 222 is in pit lane. Didn't seem like that hard of a hit, but certainly seems to have slowed him up as we come back forward once again into that fight that we were watching between Gruchelski and Wolf. Now Wolf is ahead and into 4th, having to dodge to the side of Ryan Robertson, who I'm sure is going to get sick of letting these cars through by the end of this race.
And speaking of Ryan Robertson, he's kind of been in the middle of it this whole time, and there's just never a break for these prototype cars. They're working their way through the thick of the GT field, and got to be careful because there's a lot of battles going on between AM and also GT overall.
Again, a little bit of side-by-side, but this time Gruchelski gets it back as it's Josh Wolf who gets held up behind Shane Hunter. And they're starting to reach the top of that GT field now. They are within the top 10, so it's going to get even harder, and drivers will not want to give up position.
Nice battle between Gruchelski and Wolf. I think Gruchelski probably the faster of the 2.
That's Dornenberg that you see on your screen right now. And I'm not sure what happened to him because he just kind of came to a halt after a bit of a spin, caused a bit of a checkup and a hit, unfortunately, with Peter Houston, who ran into the side of the car. But it does look like Dornenberg is back rolling, and Houston was able to carry on as well. So no harm, no foul for the time being. We're already, Bill, a quarter of the way through this race.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Dornenberg overdrove the corner, and for some reason, Houston came in there and did the exact same thing. Almost makes you think there's some oil on the track.
Thankfully, not a thing in iRacing quite yet. We have the replay for Layton. Let's see what happened to Eddie here. Get a better look at the contact between himself and the 222 of Ghosh. This is not the replay, obviously, right here. Here we go. That's it on the bottom. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Just gets into the back of him there, Joey.
Yeah, and it's always tough to tell with the different closing rates. You know, GT cars have ABS, prototype cars don't, and the prototype cars have more downforce, so they can tend to stomp on the brakes harder, and always a tough judgment point with the funnel going in there to, I believe that's turn 3.
Yeah, that was turn 3, indeed. And Billy Smith still leads, but it looks like they just overtook Wasilewski. So that is the first time through the pack, Bill. They'll get a brief respite, and I do mean brief, and then it'll be back at it again until it becomes a conveyor belt of cars.
You know, you would think with so many GT cars out there, the attrition would be big down there, but really, the prototypes are struggling. There's been incidents for at least half of the 13 cars so far.
Well, and that's disconcerting because the prototypes are usually considered tanks. The LMP2s are notorious for being able to take a beating. So the fact that we've already lost 3 of them tells me that this is going to be a very rough one for sure, as Wasilewski still has a few more of them to come through. Next up is going to be Thomas Fisher in 3rd place, and it has become a massive gap. It's up to 7 seconds between 2nd and 3rd place.
I think they're really kind of stretching the field out right now. And it's interesting, Joe, because Ryan is in a BMW, Bradley's in an Audi, and then another BMW of Eric Thomas. Robert Cast is actually the one who I've had my eye on because he's the one who got around Luke Schmidt earlier in the race, and he slowly but surely left the rest of the field and caught up to Eric Thomas. He's looking at that last podium position. Still a long time left, but Robert Cast having a very good race so far.
Oh, big dodge to the side there. That was Leif Peterson in 6th in the prototypes. Thankfully did not make contact with Robert Cast, but he's going to separate Robert and Eric briefly for that 3rd position. Probably not going to be much passing along here into the fountain section. A lot more narrow than the rest of the track, and also just basically a whole bunch of curves stringed together.
Got to be careful of those high curbs too. If you take too much of those apex curbs, it can tend to really upset the car. When it lands, it just isn't happy and you're having to catch it, and never something you want to do here at a street circuit. You just want to be smooth on those inputs.
Absolutely. So completing lap 11 are our GT cars. They're going by quickly out here. And pretty soon, before you know it, we're going to be within that pit window. Technically, we will be within it in probably the next minute or so, but we don't expect to see many drivers trying to pit until late in the stint, as that usually is the philosophy most of them go by. Meanwhile, look at this battle in the background as Nathan Jew is trying to catch up to Corey Ensing. That's our 2nd place driver in the AM category, Joey. And Nathan is actually still exactly where he began.
Yeah, and we were talking about it pre-race, how stacked the middle of this GT field is. And here's a perfect example that we've got 2 AMs with Luke Schmidt and Corey Ensing leading over Nathan Jew, one of the regular GT frontrunners. And they're both doing a really good job. Corey Ensing, 2nd place in AM. He was actually had the fight up to Luke Schmidt earlier, but kind of battle separated a little. Now it's Nathan Jew applying the pressure to the back of Corey Ensing.
That, for reference, Jew's taken multiple podiums, including a win at Road America. So yeah, no slouch there, but just can't seem to find his way forward and plugged up behind Corey Ensing as they head towards the final few right-handers and down to the start-finish line, making sure they don't wind up the same way that we saw with Scott Angelo and keeping it off the wall past the pit entrance and then along past the timing tower. So it's not going quite Nathan Jew's way, and in fact, they're going to have a LMP2 show up behind them on top of things. Dominic Dornenberg is going to find enough space. Oh, but look at that. Cars weaving across the track, trying to take the racing line. It's up to Dominic to try and find his way, an opening through them, and he does so nice and cleanly.
It's a bit like playing Frogger mixed with an accordion there in the brake zone. It's just kind of got to combine the two.
Well, let's hope that they don't have to plug the machine in and take it across the street to retain that high score, and that everybody can make it to the finish of this game of Frogger as they come down the strand once again. Yet another one of our cars in the LMP2s trying to overtake them, but there, Chris Sherburne, there's that reputation you were talking about before we came live, Joey. Sherburne just showing incredible patience between them.
Yeah, and sometimes it can get him into a little bit of frustrating moments with some of the other competitors, but he just wants to leave room. He wants to be patient out there. He doesn't want to interrupt anybody's race, and he does a very good job at it for the most part.
Yeah, so still just going to give some time between Corey and Nathan. Not sure Nathan really likes having this prototype in between them, as it is separating them. But now that he's got plenty of straightaway, sort of straightaway here, before they hit the brakes again, Sherburne's going to be able to get by. There haven't really been changes up at the front of either field, so apologies for fans of guys like Smith, Kundinger, Fisher, Wasilewski, Haley, Thomas. It's literally no change in the GT field, and not since we had that wreck at the very beginning have we seen any overtakes in the podium of the prototypes.
I really think pit stops for the prototypes are going to be really strategic, because it's a combination of pitting when there's coming out with clear traffic in front of you, and maybe you can short fill a little bit, maybe pick up that spot. I'm thinking Kundinger might try that, get ahead of Billy Smith, and then maybe nurse it all the way home. I don't know if that's doable.
Well, and that's a good point. This is a track that isn't known as being very thirsty, Bill, so I wonder if this is the perfect opportunity to try and jump them in that fashion. And plus, on top of it, there's plenty of chances to try and save the fuel just sitting patient behind the slower class.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking that you can be out in front and maybe have a slower pace and still be able to stay out in front because passing is so tough here. We'll see. I don't want to. These guys know what they're doing.
Well, on the backstretch once again, Kundinger stays within 0.8 of a second. He's doing what he needs to do, Joey. He's keeping them honest, and I'm sure if the right moment occurs, especially towards the end of the race, we're going to see Carter get aggressive.
He just needs to stay in touch. You're right. Stay in visual contact. And look at how difficult it can be working your way through some of this GT traffic as Carter was getting held up a little bit there. But 38 minutes left here at Detroit. Anything can happen. You just have to survive the street circuit sometimes.
So far, we're getting that a little bit more. We've only lost Ghosh, Canchin, Darling, Gibson, and Angelo. I do see Cameron Bidwell in pit lane. Going to check and see if he had any problems on this lap, because this is again quite early for a pit stop. As we've also got Kudrowski in pit lane in the number 35. This might be drivers just going for the early pit stop strategy. Very interesting.
And a little bit of info. I know that Cam Bidwell is always one of these early pit stop guys. However, looks like he just disconnected out of the race. I don't think that's a strategy call.
No. I didn't see him hit anything in my short reverse, so unless he had a clunk in the wall a long time ago, that may have been him just not feeling comfortable out there. So giving up the ghost, which credit to him if he's willing to admit defeat in that way. As we once again look at our leader, Wasilewski. Ryan up to about 4.7 seconds ahead of the Comet. Let's see if we can spot him in the background. There he is in his Audi, just coming up over the hump as he gets overtaken. I think that's Chris Sherburne going by. Yes, it is.
In his Audi. It's not a lot of Audis out there.
No, there's definitely far fewer of them. BMW and Porsche seems to be the more popular. There's a few Ferraris, and of course we got our lone McLaren. Jimbo Pfeiffer still out there.
I think he races that just for me.
I wouldn't put it against him. But coming onto the back stretch, the Audi right now still having some ground to make up to Wasilewski. It's actually a good smattering up at the front of the field. We've got 3 different makes in the top 4. The Bimmer, the Audi, and the Porsche currently making up amongst them. But Robert Cast and the Porsche only in 4th place. So we got 2 BMWs on the podium right now. Not the car that I would have expected, Joey, to fare well at this track.
Well, each one of them has their own character, and I think the BMW is known to be very gentle, very forgiving, pretty compliant. So I think it's easy to find the limit here at Detroit in a car that drives like that. But one thing I want to point out, one Porsche that we're missing that is always at the front of the field, I don't see Ross Booth here today, and I think that's a little bit of Porsche speed that we're missing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Our leader in the GT Pro points also not showing up. So basically our only leader in the points that is here is Luke Schmidt. And everybody else in the other classes has a good chance to try and run down what has been dominant performances in both GT Pro and the prototypes. But today, Billy Smith, with Carter Kundinger now breathing down his neck, is starting to question whether or not he's got this one in the bag as he has to hold up behind Rattray, and there's the opportunity that we were waiting to see if it would open up. Carter Kundinger blast pass down Central Avenue and coming up to that second place car in the, excuse me, that is not the Audi in front of them. Almost contact between Kundinger and Billy Smith, still wheel to wheel as they weave through turn 4, now back into 5. Advantage goes to Billy Smith, and he tries to duck inside of Robertson, who is in the Ferrari in front of them that I mistook there for that Audi. Now they're finally able to make it by, but the battle is not over, Bill.
Kundinger had him pass for about 13 seconds, and then he got around. Here he comes again. Boy, traffic is rough. Kundinger looking for every way around. The car that's in front of him now, that's Shane Hunter trying to find a way out, get out of the way.
Inches to spare between himself and the wall down into turn 7. That cost him a little bit of time, but now the hurry up has been given. Smith is starting to try and make passes through the fountain section. He knows he can no longer sit around and wait, Joey.
It is getting busy between these two, and looking at the outright pace, I think that Carter's car has come to him throughout the race right now. Got a very fast car underneath him. However, Billy Smith, the only prototype to throw down a 119 today so far.
Yeah, in the race, he's looking pretty good. We know he's got the pace, but maybe he's just trying to think, let's bring home the points no matter what. Yes, he wants the win, but he doesn't want to throw the car away, and he's got a pretty good gap here. That move that he made through the fountain section really seemed to pay huge dividends as he goes by Young Park, further putting a buffer between himself and Kundinger. This is all happening about 8 seconds ahead of Thomas Fisher, who has been kind of nowhere, unfortunately, but still on the podium up to now. Bill, they finally clear a few more of our GT cars, but that got spicy very quickly.
Yeah, and the pit window for the prototypes is really small. You're not going to be able to have your boyfriend sneak through it in the middle of the night. So we're a couple of minutes past halfway. They're going to be doing it real soon. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Smith come in. Well, he's got clear track ahead of him. I think he's going to wait till traffic, then he'll come in then.
We didn't see it on screen, but I saw another slide out of Carter Kundinger into the fountain section again. So he's up to 1.6 seconds. Maybe he just overcooked the car a little bit there, and it's unfortunately spread apart. Yeah, you're right. We should see them, I would imagine, maybe about 25 seconds, or 25, not seconds, minutes left to go in this race. It should be a bit of a wider window at a track like this.
You're right. That's a good point.
But I don't anticipate it'll make a huge difference. It should still be pretty narrow, as you said, and they continue to have to pick off yet more and more. Speak of the devil, here you go, Bill. Josh Wolf is the first to blink.
Having a nice run. He was up a few spots, racing in fourth.
Yeah, he's going to take his service. We did see him fighting with Nate Gruchelski a little bit earlier. Was unable to pass in the end, and looks like he is indeed going to take tires along with the fuel here today, as they are now able to do that along with the refueling. So no having to wait for that to finish up and take the hit in time, and he's back out on course as we come back to up towards the front of the GT field here, with Carter Kundinger having to try and go past some of his teammates. Eric Thomas just in front of him. Robert Cast as he overtook him through the fountain section. Thomas lets him through, although that was very deep there for that 02 car into turn 11.
Yeah, you can just look at the tower there on screen left, and you can see the gap now, a tick under 3 seconds. A second ago, Kundinger and Smith were side by side. Oh no.
Car sideways through the fountain. Thankfully, it looks like it was not in a busy part of the track. That's Ed Eisenring, it looks like, who somehow got pointed perpendicular. So not ideal, but at least he avoided what looks like major damage. I only see a little bit of a dent on the rear bumper, and he carries on. Wayne Castile has also pitted, so a two-time winner this season. Takes the 333 down in for service, and boy, he's in and out very quick. 14 seconds for him.
And I think that's kind of the trend that we're going to see out of these GT cars. Just splash it up with barely as much fuel as you can make it towards the end. And the other thing the GT cars can gamble a little bit with, Joe, is where the prototype leader is. However, if you gamble the wrong direction, you could be sitting out of fuel on an extra lap.
Oh, that was a little sketchy, and again, things get held up, and that's going to allow what looks like Gruchelski to get through on Thomas Fisher for third place. So the 69 car trying to make an overtake down into the fountain section, had it bite him hard. Now he can finally go by Nathan Jew, but just goes to show that you really need to pick your battles.
Gruchelski is having a great run as he is up a ton of spots. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. Starting in 9th, racing in 3rd. I can do the math.
Yeah, nicely done. What's interesting is we've got one better on him. Peter Houston is up 7, but Houston did not set a qualifying time in this one. So he started from the back of his class. And, Nathan Jew is in. The 420 car has found his stall. Looks like Christopher Pies is in as well.
And yeah, you called it. Nathan Jew already down off of his Air Jacks and away, and Those were actually teammates, Thomas Fisher, Nathan Jew, between those two classes that you saw the checkup there, and then Nathan Jew dove it down to pit lane.
All right, so we've already had Wayne Castile pit. Looks like Pies is also exiting out of the lane now, but Jew is going to be our highest pitter. He's out and on his way. There he is on your screen still with plenty of clearing, not just to those who pitted, but any cars behind. So I don't know if he was watching the map, Joey, or what, but man, he timed that extremely well to get himself some clear track.
Sometimes that's what you need to do. If you get held up, whether it's prototype or GT field, sometimes you just need clear track, reset your own brain out there and do some clean laps. And before you know it, you actually overtake cars that are getting held up on the other end of the pit stop cycle.
Speaking of getting held up, Fisher, who was still trying to chase down Krzyzewski for that third place back, was just unfortunately caught behind Eric Thomas with no place to go. What was less than a second between them is now up to 2 seconds.
Just like that, it's kind of the ebb and flow. I mentioned the accordion effect. It can gap out like a rubber band, but it can also compress when these GT cars get the heavy traffic. So sometimes you just got to take a deep breath, wiggle your toes, be patient. It'll all come back to you.
Our points leader in the GT AMS is still our leader out on track. Luke Schmidt took the pole in that class, and he's about 2.5 seconds ahead of Corey Ensing. So right now, he's managing it, but we've seen this get separated before, and then suddenly it absolutely explodes when the unthinkable happens. Let's cross our fingers that we don't get stuff like we had last time out with Watkins Glen, but this is not for sure for that number 27, but he's managing it well for the time being.
Well, and he had a little misstep there at the beginning of the race, but he's managed to gather it up very, very nicely. He's held a consistent pace. He had Corey Ensing really applying a lot of pressure to him earlier on in the race, and you just mentioned it. He's kind of gapped out from that number 25 car, actually starting to close the gap back on his teammate Robert Cast and Eric Thomas, who's not that far up the road in front of him.
And he just smacked the wall right there on camera. Luke Schmidt, I wonder if we could get a replay of the onboard. I'm pretty certain that he understeered right into the concrete coming out of turn 13.
He did. Yep, you're right. And I think maybe the only saving grace right now is that it's close to the pit window time for the GT car. So if he has damage, he can probably come down and get that fixed.
Remember, no spare car in this series, though, and let's hope that he hit it flush and not on the corner so that he didn't damage the suspension. They did beef up the GT cars recently, so that should help somewhat. But I guess we'll have to wait and see if he has a long pit stop or not after that little smack into the left-hand side. And he doesn't seem to be suffering too much. Ensing's not really catching him, and the car looks like it's handling okay. So as they come down into the braking, I guess all's well that ends well.
Guys, you can help me on this one. Might there be a repair that the pit crew will be forced to make on that, even though the car's running good?
There is no black and orange flag for him, so it looks like he is
Okay.
okay right now. Yeah, so does not have to take that this time. So it is optional if he does have repairs, but it all depends on how he feels about it. Looks like our second place in the prototypes, Carter Kundir, has come in. He might actually be out in just a few seconds here. And yeah, it's a good stop, 17.7 seconds, but does he find an opening in the traffic?
He may have timed that really good because, as you were saying that, Billy Smith was just stuck behind traffic. Now he's cleared it. Now he's racing.
Oh, he's side by side, though. He's going to have to make this decisive. That's Peter Houston, who is fighting him hard, squeezes him down to the inside, and then comes around the long way around. Oh, no, this is not what Carter Kundinger needs. He gets overtaken and lost time in that side-by-side action.
That's a battle for position, but Houston still needs to come in.
Yeah, that could have cost precious seconds, though, out there for Carter Kundinger. We'll have to wait and see. Sounds like we do have the replay ready for Schmidt. Let's get that up and see what happened here with our AM leader and how hard of a hit it was once we get that going. Joey, talk us through this.
It's just a classic case of understeer here. Doesn't hit the apex curb, just a little bit too much speed going into the corner, and when you need the front end to turn on the exit, it didn't want to turn on him. And honestly, Joe, it's kind of a classic case of Porsche with the weight all in the back. You stand on the gas, it really squats on the back end. There's nothing on the front to keep it turned.
Whoa!
That was that Bradley Haley?
And Carter Kundinger. Whoa, my goodness, second place in the GT cars, and he backs up right into traffic. He's going to get hit by Eric Thomas along with Patrick McDaniel. Robert Cast slows it up. More cars hit him. Corey Ensing, Dominic Dornenberg. It goes wrong in a hurry. That is a very blind corner, Joey. And you can see now Dornenberg is having the same issue of how do I get turned around here?
Yeah, and he's just got to keep backing it up just like what he's doing right now. I know it's really painful, but just got to back it up as much as he can, then spin the car around. He's doing a really good job to stay out of the way of everybody, but it was Bradley Haley that was spun around that triggered everything there, Joe, and I want to say there was probably 3 or 4 cars involved.
Of all the luck, Carter Kundinger took his pit stop. If he hadn't have, he would have been ahead of that, I would assume, and wouldn't have gotten caught up with that. And now he's also still stuck behind Peter Houston, who I understand actually is still dealing with a penalty. The reason that he did not qualify is because he was given an EOL from a ruling from last race at Watkins Glen. So already not sitting too well with his stewards, but I didn't see anything untowards in his battling there with Kundinger. We'll see what happens after this one. In the meantime, I do see Gruchelski in the 69 machine has hit pit lane. I think we got a replay of Bradley Haley. Let's see if we can unravel what caused all of this. Did he get help, actually? Not quite. Just kind of spun it on his own. You talked about it earlier about the marbles, and then that Ferrari up ahead also had a bit of a problem. Joey, but that's where it all went wrong.
And Patrick McDaniel, Eric Thomas, Bradley Haley, Robert Cass, Dominic Dornberg, and more. There was a really big incident. I know the cars kept going, but that collected a lot of damage from a lot of front-running cars.
That's probably more akin to what we were expecting here today, unfortunately, is issues such as that. Oh man, poor Carter Kundinger still has not been able to overtake on Peter Houston, who hasn't pitted yet, and we're 21 minutes left. He's going extremely long. He tries for it down into turn 7, goes for the undercut, and gets back underneath him, but can't get the throttle down. He's going to be on the wrong side. The 2 brush wheels as they come out of turn 11. Job is still not done. Carter Kundinger has got to be bright red inside that cockpit.
You know, I always say that the emotions in sim racing are very real. I wish we had an onboard camera of Carter Kundinger right now, because I don't think it's just the steam coming out of the ears. I'm pretty sure he's speaking Italian with both hands.
Thomas Fisher pits in the meantime, so he's going to relinquish his spot to Kundinger. Down into turn 3 now. Carter's not close enough, though he's showing himself in the mirrors, maybe trying to see if he can psych out Houston, who does miss his brake marker just slightly, but unfortunately not enough to allow him by.
Joey, doesn't matter. Houston's car is really, really light. I mean, the tank is as empty as a syrup bottle at a pancake social. I mean, you guys listen to us for information. We're talking about the tight pit window. Joe, I've never seen prototypes go so long in a race. They're well past their normal pit stop time.
Especially this season. Remember at Daytona, it was extremely narrow. They only had about 3 minutes on either side of the half-hour mark. Well, in the meantime, we got another car in pit lane. Dornenberg, I believe. Well, I thought we had a replay of a spin. I'm not sure if we're going to be going to that now. As it looks like we're going to wait for Dornenberg to finish up. He's not. Did he go up on the jacks? Doesn't look like he did.
He might be fixing some of that damage, Joe, because I know that he did make the contact with the GT car and then also got into the wall there. Might be fixing some of that.
Seems like a regular stop for him, just slightly long, 19.6 seconds. So if he did repair any damage, it was putting a piece of Bondo tape on it and then sent him back out. So he runs last of the field. We're going to take a replay of, let's see if let's get this up here. I actually didn't quite catch what this is going to be for. Oh, this is for Dornenberg. Did he have a separate incident from from the one that we saw him get involved in. He's flashing the lights. He's clearly not happy. Oh, that was a big hit.
And I believe that was right in front of our GT leader as well. A little bit of frustration with the traffic, and I think if you get caught out on those marbles, it's tough to stop the car before you reach that wall.
Okay,
so Billy Smith finally comes in. I got to think that the GT cars are going to be looking at a splash and go. I mean, look how long the prototype's good, and the GT cars always run longer.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Bill. It's going to be a very short stop. We did see Nathan Ju with a 13-second stop himself. He's our highest pitter still. So now's why I want to see what the damage is for Billy Smith, because now suddenly Houston peels off, and there is Kundinger. Smith is on his way. Oh, but Smith had a close moment coming out of pit lane himself, with Christopher Pies having to give him just enough room. But there you go. That's what happened to Carter Kundinger. It's 3 seconds between them because of him having to deal with that battle.
And if I remember, I believe it was about 3 seconds, but the ebb and flow of the traffic, it can really evaporate that very fast.
Joey, you said it. This is not over yet. I've seen Kundinger close up a 3-second gap really fast, depending on what Billy Smith gets behind.
Wasilewski pits. So for now, our AM leader is now the overall leader. Luke Schmidt carries on. Wasilewski finishes up his. Robert Cass does not pit yet, even though he got involved in a bit of a spin earlier on. And looks like there you go. There is your overall leader, Luke Schmidt, who still owes us a pit stop. Wasilewski has nobody around him. He comes out in pretty darn clear air and a long ways away from Eric Thomas, who is the next nearest car to have pitted.
Yeah, I think that the number 86 BMW has the field's number right here today, and it's going to be up for everybody else to kind of sort it out for the rest of the positions.
Down into the braking zone there. That's Thomas versus Ju. They've got 0.6 of a second between them after that pit stop, and I believe they were fighting before the stop on top of things. But as they weave their way onto the back stretch along the river once again, all about getting that throttle down. Does look like they're pretty much even between them coming out of there this time. So no chance to try and attack quite yet. Only driver that we need to see a stop from in the prototypes is Chris Sherburne. And then it looks like we have about 6 drivers left in the GT classes that need to stop. Make that 5. Luke Schmidt just came in.
I think we're going to see kind of the dominoes start to fall. Watching Shane Hunter, he comes in as well. Looks like the majority of the rest of the GT players are now hitting pit road.
Well, ever since Bradley Haley had his incident, which I don't know if we mentioned, but he had to retire from the race, unfortunately, the latest one to have to leave the course. That's meant just a huge gap between first and what will be first and second once we finish up the pit stops. Cast continues on by, but Luke Schmidt finally pitted. Robertson has pitted, so Wasilewski's promoted back up in P2. Eric Thomas, the next one down, 16, actually make that 17 seconds behind.
Yeah, no, Ryan Wash, you see him, he's the third car on screen here, and he's actually the first car to have completed the pit stop cycle. Robert Cass, the green and black Porsche in front of him, still has to come into pit lane and navigate around. I believe this is Patrick McDaniel right here in this other Porsche. A lap down car, just have to navigate carefully. When you're in Ryan Wasilewski's position, just take it easy. You got everything to lose here, nothing to gain.
Yeah, that is McDaniel, who's a lap down, and Cast, who is leading but owes us a pit stop. So yeah, I think in this case we need Wash to just kind of take it easy here. He's got a huge gap, doesn't need to get into trouble. I'm expecting that 42 to pit in, and there you go. 42 pits and releases what will once again be our leader, Ryan Wasilewski.
And really good job from Patrick McDaniel there to know the leader is behind him, open the door, lift it on the straightaway, and let Ryan Wasilewski through. And look at this. Actually, a whole lot of clear track, Joe.
And knocking on all the wood I can find here, Joey. This is going to be not just the first win of the season for Wasilewski. This would be his first podium.
Well, and that's really surprising because I know Ryan, and he's typically one of the fastest drivers, especially in a GT car. I just think maybe things haven't gone together for him, and I believe he was starting out with the old barbecue machine, the McLaren, earlier this season, and he swapped over to the BMW now.
Yep.
Bill,
Joe, without Olsen and Booth being here, we talked about it. It does open up some opportunities. Billy Smith also looking for his first win of the season.
Well, Shirazi is the one that really wants the opening. Where is he? Because, God, we haven't even talked about him. I'm trying to find him. Where is he? Holy cow. Oh, he's in pit lane, and he's been in there for 3.5 minutes. Something has happened to Johan Shirazi, second place in the points. He has dropped the ball in more ways than one today, and I'm trying to see if I can find exactly what went down here. Oh, he spun up the tires coming into turn 7. Oh, no, he didn't spin up the tires. He understeered. He smacked the wall into the fountain section. Shirazi looks like he is either going to be significantly behind a lot of cars or basically done for the day.
And it's Detroit. It's this racetrack. Attrition is yet to be over. We still have 12 plus minutes in the race, and I doubt if Shirazi's going to be the last of the ones to fall victim here at Belle Isle.
This is a truly bizarre race for the GT pros, because yes, we're missing Ross Booth. Shirazi's out of it, and Nathan Jew's the next one down. He's still in third. He's going to gain some points on Ross Booth, but not as many as I think he would like. Wayne Castile is in 11th. He's 4th in points. Bradley Haley's a DNF. This is nobody stepping up to the plate that should be a threat to Booth.
Really, Nathan Jew has really turned it around. I didn't think he was going to have a very good race, but he's going to look like he's maybe get a podium out of this.
And Bill, you took the words right out of my mouth. He stopped early. He's working lap 12 right now of his fuel stint, and he has leapfrogged several competitors out there up into a podium position.
We've got the replay on what happened to Johan Shirazi. So let's take a look here. Yeah, Nathan Jew is making the best of it. Damage limitation, I suppose, but sure he would like a win. Yeah, car just bounced, and then unfortunately it went right across the track. And yeah, it looks a little bit sketchy driving like something like a shopping cart, unfortunately, here through the fountain section. So no wonder he took it down into pit lane after that one. As we come back live, Billy Smith in the prototypes leads by about 2 seconds. Haven't seen Kundinger run this down super quickly, but this looks like one of the brief periods where they don't have traffic around them.
Well, Joey looked at it a while ago. It's so hard to tell who has the fastest car, but I think Joey nailed it. I think Kundinger is actually faster, but Smith has been so efficient through traffic. Or Kundinger just aren't getting the brakes.
I mean, could be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B there as they come out onto the backstretch continuation, I guess, if you will, into 12 and 13. Quick little flick, couple of right-handers as we ride on board to show you just how fast with Carter Kundinger. This last lap, Billy Smith and 1:19.4, actually Billy Smith's fastest lap for himself, and a 20-point due for Kundinger. So that one actually is Billy Smith pulling away. We've got 10 minutes left on the clock now. It's not done. It's definitely not done. I think Kundinger's still within range. Oh, he's pushing hard, though. Look at him kick up the dust coming out of turn 3. One of the few places where you can step over the limit a little bit.
Only a little. Only a little bit there, because if you put it off too much into the grass, you can get a lot of wheel spin, and it tends to hook the car over. And Joe, I agree. I think this race is far from over. I know we're under 10 minutes here, but all it takes is a couple GT cars sprinkled throughout this racetrack to close it back in.
Joey, you've raced in these, and Joe and I have called a million of these. This is Autobahn, baby. It's never over.
And And we've also got a replay from Patrick McDaniel. He's been in pit lane for about 2 minutes now. He must have had some sort of issue, so this is going to be on the bottom screen that you see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is a frightening first turn. It's pretty fast, and there is no room on the outside.
Well, and it's also slippery out there. You've got all the rubber buildup, so if you get too far out there, there's just no grip, and you see what happens.
Smith carries on up to 2.8 seconds. Another good lap for him then, I think. 19.5. Kundinger with a 20 flat, so another half second faster between them. But now Smith is starting to catch a few of that GT class traffic. Pfeiffer up first with Eisenring. That's actually a battle for position, so he won't want to interrupt that. We'll see if this regains some of the time.
And looking a little bit further up the road, Joe, I do see more GT cars, so I think we're stirring the pot at the right time.
Indeed, yeah, he's got Trent Brown in front of him. But the question is, when is Carter Kundinger also going to catch that traffic? Yeah, he had another little slip up there coming through the left-hander. And he's going to really squeak through. He knows he cannot waste time. He is pushing it whenever he sees an opening to try and go past that slower class. It is paying off a little bit. He has been faster this lap. It's down to 2 seconds.
Sometimes it's all you can do is inch by inch crawl it in and apply the pressure a little bit more each time Billy looks down at his relative, and instead of 2 seconds, he'll see 1.9 and then 1.8, and it just makes the pressure even more to squeeze through these GT cars.
Another half second chopped off that lap by Carter Kundinger, making sure that Billy Smith has to sweat this one out if he wants to try and get to the end. We haven't talked about him, but Nate Gruchelski, by the way, is in third place. So podium finish for the 69, but he's in no man's land, 17 seconds behind Kundinger and 13 seconds ahead of Josh Wolf. So basically all dressed up and no place to go except to the podium if he can just bring it home in about 7 minutes' time.
And you see Billy Smith starting to flash the lights. He is saying, hey, I'm the leader. I'm coming through. Make room.
And now he needs to. After he keeps losing time to Kundinger, it's down to 1.3 seconds now. He's got to make those hard decisions because it's going to be either lose the win or lose the car here. So he's probably going to have to try and make a bit of a push as they're down to 1.6 seconds. Flashing the headlights once again, diving down to the inside of Shirazi, who did get back out on track impressively. And they go by Andrew Lunsford. That's not a battle for position, so that worked out well for Smith. It's back up to 1.4 seconds. Kundinger doesn't get the advantage he was hoping for.
No, but I think Billy lost just a little bit of time through there, and it's all these little chunks, little tenths that you can take out. And Carter Kundinger, sitting with 6 minutes left, says, hey, just a few more GT cars, please.
This has got to be nerve-wracking, Joey, when you know that you've got a faster car behind you, and you're trying to overtake all that slower class traffic. So you're trying to make all those good decisions, but at the same time, you're just willing that clock, I'm sure, to run down a little faster.
Well, you just have to be smart. You got to be aggressive, but you got to be smart, because if you overstep the limit...
Oh, it's right the wall!
He just overstepped the limit in a bad place. Kundinger's right there, but he hasn't taken it yet. Is the car going to handle okay from here? As he exits out of turn 11, Smith still holds on to the lead. They're going to go past the car of Robert Rattray, who's going to give just enough space. That checks up Carter Kundinger. Is he seeing his one opportunity flash before his eyes? 5 minutes left to go. We don't yet know what the pace is for the 901 car.
Billy Smith got away with one right there. If that was the real damage model, he'd have all sorts of tow out on the car, but he actually used that to his advantage. Look at this, Joe. He's back up to 2 seconds in front of Carter.
And still not done with the traffic, going past a Ferrari there. And then the BMW of Marcarella, who does not have any interest of giving him too much space any more than he needs. They are desperately trying to keep these cars as a buffer between them. Margarella trying to help his teammate. Kundinger finally goes on past to try and chase him down. Back down to 0.6 of a second.
I had to chuckle a little bit. Those are two GT cars that were painted the same as the two prototype cars coming through, and you saw the coordination at work.
Exactly. Oh, behind them, almost had an accident between Ryan Robertson, Franco Margarella. That was for position that allowed Wayne Castile through. So things definitely getting spicy with drivers making risky decisions, as right up on the back of Young Park, Billy Smith manages to keep from making contact. He continues to play hide and seek here in and amongst the GT cars, and Carter Kundinger has been flummoxed this race by them. It doesn't seem to be going his way.
This is great racing that we're seeing at the end. I know that it kind of settled down through the middle part of this race, but the final 10 minutes here of this Autobahn at Detroit has just been great racing at the front.
Can Billy Smith get to home base here? Can he get to that checkered flag and outrun Carter Kundinger, who's now up to 2 seconds once again? He's going to overtake Shane Hunter to give himself that leeway, but I think Hunter's going to get overtaken by Kundinger down the straightaway along the strand here. There he is in the background. Yep, he's going to get it nice and easy, even though the track weaves back and forth. He's got a nice line that he can eventually breeze past that BMW. It's going to be 2 to go next time by.
And the prototype leaders are coming up to the GT AM overall leaders. And oh no, did Carter just hit the wall in the same spot that Billy did?
I looked away for just a second. Going back to check, it was extremely close. He brushed it. Barely brushed it. It was not the smack that Billy Smith had. So hopefully he'll be able to get away with it.
And, you know, it just shows you that these drivers are pushing it past qualifying limits, 10 tenths out there, just trying to run each other down. And I mentioned it, Billy Smith now crawling up the back of Robert Cast, who's in a battle with Luke Schmidt.
Times it right, dives off to the left-hand side. Luke Schmidt actually not battling him. That's, he is for overall position, but that's the AM leader. He is going to let him through, knowing that it won't hurt him. Cast can take that 4th position. Oh, and once again into the wall there for Carter Kundinger.
He's wagging the tail. He's being very happy with his right foot right now, and he needs to. He sees that 901 starting to scoot away, and he just needs to get on the gas.
We talk in oval racing about using up your stuff, using up the car. Carter Kundinger is going to run out of parts here by the end of this race. Basically knows he doesn't need it after these next couple minutes. So it's all sorts of loose. I wonder if he did knock it out of line a little bit.
I wouldn't doubt it, and I also know here in the sim, once you start to overheat the tires, you have to cool them down, or else it just gets really bad.
White flag is being held aloft for Billy Smith. He has to make one more lap to get the victory here. He's got 2.5 seconds back to Carter Kundinger. Is that enough of a buffer that he can relax and not have to push too hard?
I don't think so. I think you see GT cars there. Carter Kundinger is still in your mirror. You got to stay on the gas. And Joe, one thing that I've always learned is that if you change what you're doing, you're more prone to make a mistake.
Rosenbaum, the next one up. Then it's Kudrowski. I think those are the only two he'll have to overtake here. And he is going to be a little bit held up here. Rosenbaum sees him coming, gives him the apex. Nicely done to Sheldon. And Billy Smith is on by. It's down to 1.7 seconds. Still looking good. It's going to be hard to overtake from here on out if you're Carter Kundinger. And Kudrowski, I don't even know if Smith's going to get Kudrowski before it's done.
No, I don't think he's going to quite get there, and I just think that Carter needs something to happen. He needs a mistake out of this 901, and Billy Smith just needs to hold it together for a few more corners.
Smith once again getting loose out of turn 11. He was getting close. It was down to 1.3 seconds. I worried that maybe Smith was shy on fuel. Doesn't seem to be the case as he comes out of the final corner. Billy Smith takes the win at Detroit.
The Carter Kundinger come home there in the second place position. And just to hop on over to the GTs, Joe, Ryan Wasilewski has actually taken a victory lap right now. A little bit of action further in the back of the pack, this Porsche.
And the winner of the GT AMs was Luke Schmidt. He just crossed the line now. He takes a valuable victory and 5th overall. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you called it there because you're right. These cars are ending their race right now, and Ryan Wasilewski is just kind of on a victory lap. He still has to finish this lap, but you're right. The rest of the GT field coming home across the line right now.
Wasilewski not going to be challenged by anyone, as you said. Just basically gets to enjoy his run around the track. As we mentioned, a number of 4th places, no podiums yet to now. And while we have seen plenty of chaotic races, none of them have gone the way of Wasilewski until now here at the Motor City. The 86, just kind of casually, he's not even pushing it all. He's really coasting this thing around. He's going to savor this victory as he brings it at a little bit of a stroll down to the line. The 86 BMW is your GT Pro winner here today. My goodness, what a fantastic one for the 86. He's milking it. He waited to just kind of putter across the line. As I think that is going to take us to a quick break. We will go to results after we have this replay of Robert Rattray, who unfortunately gave up a few positions right at the end in the AM category. Oh, the curve to the inside of turn 7. That can be a real killer, and then he's finished off. That looked like Josh Wolf there.
It gets really narrow there, Joe. Just when you combine 3 prototypes and 1 GT car,
and
not much space.
It's last lap, so I don't know if Josh was fighting with somebody, but that could have spurred him on to make an ill decision. Billy Smith, though, takes the win. It was 2 seconds over Carter Kundinger, and boy, did it get close at the very end there. Behind them, Gruchelski either lacked pace or just was taking it extremely easy in traffic because he was 22 seconds behind, but still in the podium in 3rd. Josh Wolf, as I mentioned, was 4th, and what do you know? He was trying to run away from another car. Thomas Fisher was only half a second behind him in the end, but he still gets a top 5. Peter Houston, after his penalty, climbs all the way up to 6th, as Leif Peterson was P7 and Eddie Layton was 8th, and it's Dominic Dornenberg in 9th. What about the GT Pros, Joey?
It was Ryan Wasilewski that we just highlighted, took the field to Gapplebee's, a lap in front of the rest of the GTs. Eric Thomas coming home 2nd place, 1 lap down. Nathan Jew with that incredible pit strategy, leapfrogged from 7th all the way up to the podium, finishes 3rd. Robert Cast 4th. Luke Schmidt, your Pro-Am winner there, or your GT-Am winner there in 5th place overall. Corey Ensing, 2nd place Am, and Shane Hunter rounding out the Am podium in 7th place overall GT. Chris Pye is there in 8th. Young Park, and then Ryan Robertson completing the top 10 in the GTs.
Was Wayne Castile in the 333, finishing 11th, and Franco Margarella in the P12. Andrew Lunsford finished 13th, followed by Tom Hammond in the 14th position. Robert Rattray, with that little incident, fell to 15th, sadly. Trent Brown was behind him in 16th, and Ed Eisenring 17th. From there, Jimbo Pfeiffer was P18, Mark Kudrowski 19th. You got Chris Sherburne with a DNF, sadly, and Sheldon Rosenbaum gets back out on track in 20th. Nick Olas 21st. Johan Shirazi did return to the track, but only salvaged to 22nd. McDaniel 23rd, and from there on down, you pretty much get DNFs, unfortunately. It looks like we've got our winner in the GT Pros with us. It is Ryan Wasilewski with his first win of the season. This has got to be a relief to finally tick that box. Ryan, you hadn't even taken a podium up till now, and when you finally step on it, it's the top step. Congratulations.
Joe, I just want to apologize to Soup first. I'm sorry it wasn't the McLaren. I was debating switching for this race, and I forgot about it until this morning.
That's all right, man. A win's a win.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah, Joe, it's been a while. That's for sure. I've had some really good runs in this league, and this year it just didn't get put together. But yeah, it's good to finally have it. It's going to be my last race of the season, and it's at my home track, and to win it the way that I want it, it feels good.
and typically when we see a first-time winner for the season or at all at this track, we see an attrition-filled race where somebody came up from behind and just kept it clean. That wasn't the case for you. You dominated from the front, pole, lights to flag. I mean, what made the difference here today?
This is by far my favorite track. If you talk to any driver, they'll sit here and say, "Oh, this track sucks. It's hard. It's not fun." This track is in my backyard. I've always been in love with it. I'm very sad that IndyCar and IMSA are moving away from it and going to downtown. But the amount of laps that I've done here, if I only have time for 10 minutes, I load up a random car and go on this track and just rip it.
Well, we often talk about the momentum that wins can give you. Next time out, we're going to Most Sport. Can you keep it up when we head over the border to Canada?
Oh, I'm done for this season. I have some personal issues that are taking me away for the remainder. So, going out on a high note, but that's the good thing.
I'm just really glad, that you managed to get that win before he had to disappear. Well, again, congratulations, Ryan. Who helped make it happen?
Satellite Racing, all the guys there, all our sponsors, More Adness, Ellis Engineering, all the guys over at Satellite Racing. We've been doing a lot of hard work this year and all across all leagues, and good to see it finally get put together for. I think Billy also won too, so I think that's the first time we had an LMP win this season as well.
Fantastic,
so It's been a drastic change from the dominant performance we've had the past 2 years, but it happens.
Yeah, it's hard to stay on top in Autobahn, and that was your winner, Ryan Wasilewski, here in the GT Pros. We have our winner in the GT AMs. Joey's caught up with Luke Schmidt, who has become the latest to get more than one win in the AM category.
Luke, congratulations on taking home the GT AM win here at Detroit.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your great coverage. That one was a workout.
Well, and I was watching the GTs throughout the entire race. It seemed like kind of had a little bit of a shaky first lap, maybe tagged the wall a little bit there, but then we're able to gather things back up and have a really good rest of the race between you and what seemed like Robert Cast and Corey Ensing.
Yeah, the nerves got to me a little bit being up front on lap one, and once I got settled down, took a couple deep breaths and was able to chase with those guys and try to keep Corey behind me. Left front was going away pretty quick towards the end there, so it was I didn't have many laps left on that one.
Well, and we saw a couple Porsches have some understeer moments with that left front tire. Was that just come down to car setup that you guys had out there, or was that a characteristic that the Porsche had at this racetrack?
It may be a little bit of both. I went with a little bit more of understeer on the setup because if I went oversteer, I tended to lose the car too often. So I went a little conservative on the set, and it worked out.
Now, Luke, I know that you were leading the GTM points coming into this, and with another win, this is putting a really good hold on this championship. Can we expect to see you close out the season with such dominant performances?
Let's hope so, but this field has been real close all year. There's a lot of competition in the AM class, and honestly, that's where the nerves comes from, and that makes it a ton of fun.
Well, Luke, is there anybody that you want to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank all the guys at Composite Performance for all their help, all the work on the setups, week in, week out, a little bit of driver training here and there, and we got to thank our sponsors, Grid and SimLab, as well. Thanks for everybody. To everybody.
Well, that was Luke Schmidt, your AM winner, 5th overall in GT.
We've got one more to chat with. It looks like second place, Carter Kundinger, is joined up with Soup Zahn. And Soup, talk to us.
Carter, the saying is, if ifs were fifth, we'd all be drunk. A lot of would-haves and could-haves in this one. Let's start with the side-by-side racing with Billy Smith that went on for 3 or 4 corners, and you couldn't finish that pass.
That was my one and only shot to get him, and I'm disappointed. But at that moment, I was thinking long term. I was like, okay, I could get by him here, but It was really just super high or really opportunistic of a move that if I were to make it, I gave it my best, but eventually I just had to give it up to him. And if only I knew I was going to finish behind him at the end, then maybe I would have tried a little harder. But yeah, no, it was really good, really fun racing Billy there for the half the track. It felt like almost that one lap.
The traffic gods were not kind to you, especially coming out of pit lane after the pit stop. Man, Billy was out there racing with the clear track in front of him. You had nothing but traffic.
Yeah, it was one of those where I knew that how hard it is to pass around here. I mean, I guess I had my one opportunity there with the traffic there early with Billy, but I knew it was going to be hard. So it got to the point of the race where I was like, I should probably try something if I'm going to see if I can overlap Billy, and the easiest way to do that's in the pit stop. And yeah, it was just honestly just super unfortunate. I came out battling with an LMP2, and then basically, you know, I knew he wasn't going to give up the spot. That's just kind of the way he is. So it was just kind of it was just my demise at that point. And I tried my hardest to get around him, but I mean, it was good racing. It was good racing with him, just not the person I wanted to race with. So it was just alternate strategy that ended up not working out at the end.
Get you out of here on this one. Did you know that Billy Smith hit the wall there on the closing laps when he brought it all the way down?
I did. I had a front row seat to that, and I was hoping that maybe with how this damage model is, that maybe would have meatballed him, but I guess it didn't really affect his car too much. I just didn't have anything for him, and I'm sure a little bit of traffic helped, and didn't go my way either, so it's all good. Second's still a good finish. I hate finishing behind Billy, but it's all fun and games at the end of the day.
Well, you drove the wheels off the thing at the end. Congratulations on the second place. Get yourself another win coming up here before we close out the season.
Yeah, that's the plan. So I've got 3 more left here. We'll see how it goes. So quick shout out to Composite Performance. Those guys are all awesome. And then also quick shout out to our brand new sponsors, SimLab and Grid Engineering. So glad to have those guys on board with us.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you down the road. Joe?
That was your second place finisher, Carter Kundinger, which is going to wrap us up. So a big thank you once again to the Autobahn community for bringing us on to cover this season. And also thanks to the team today, Joey, Bill, and Zach. And also behind the scenes, Justin Malilo, who was a big help as well. The next race, Mosport, is March 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.